Hello folks, soldering is pretty straightforward, and if all you're doing is putting headers onto different boards from Terrain-Tronics and Arduinos and things like that, it's really easy. I'm going to show you in this video how you can do it with just $10 of soldering equipment and off you go. I've just found a new soldering iron kit on Amazon, and this is $10, which makes it probably one of the cheapest tools you can get in the crafting space. A lot of folks have been, kind of reluctant to get into soldering and for LEDs and things. Most people are quite happy using one of the wirewrap tools for a lot of stuff. But, having a soldering iron handy, even if you just do basic bucket soldering with it, can be very useful. So let's have a look inside, shall we? So inside you see the soldering iron itself we'll talk about in just a second, bear with me. Some tweezers, always useful for crafters, even if you're not using them for electronics, but for fishing wires through, in between foam and so on, really useful. We've got a couple of bits of wire. I wouldn't even bother with this as a crafter, to be honest with you. Don't mean to be too much of a snob. Some solder, always useful to have. Right, so this is a very simple stand to hold your soldering iron in place so that you don't burn yourself and so on. Foam here, so what you'll typically do is wet this and put it on your table or whatever, and use it to clean your soldering iron when you're done. This is a punch down tool or a wire stripper. Here, this is also useful if you've got too much solder on a circuit board. You can warm it up with your soldering iron and then push the button here, and it sucks up the solder up into the body. The thing I wanted to talk about with these soldering irons is the temperature is set here. Now, depending on the solder you have, you need to set this differently. I typically run mine between 350 and 400. You'll see that little knob there. This is in Celsius, not in Fahrenheit. Okay, these are the tips on the soldering irons. Now, I'm not sure if you guys can see this very well. I really want you guys to focus on this. This is actually, it looks like a conical tip. It comes to a point. These are about as useful as a chocolate teapot. Okay, so essentially you want a larger surface area to deliver heat. So if you look in the bag here, you see this one that looks almost like a screwdriver tip? That's the one you want to be using for soldering. Okay, so this one, use this on your foam, use this on your XPS foam. I don't care about this one, this is a nice one. So when the iron is cold and not plugged in, you're going to turn the ring at the bottom here. Okay, and you're going to take off this shield that's with it as well. You're going to take off this tip, slide this one on. Really easy. Slide this back over and tighten it up as tight as you can go, okay? So to go along with this little lesson, there's links below for these other products that come from Amazon as well. These are mini breadboards. You may have seen these before, but these are normally used for prototyping, if you want to test if a circuit is going to work or anything. But one of the things they're really good for is to hold pins that you're going to put into circuit boards in place. So this kit, not very expensive at all, about $5 or $6, links below, and really good for keeping your pins straight and so on as you're soldering. In addition is this big double-sided PCB board kit, and there's lots of things in here. I really like this kit, so let's have a look here. To put this in perspective, this kit here was about $12. But the value is really there, really strong. Lots of these little boards here for hooking lots of things together. If you want to put a magnetic switch, a reed switch, and a few other bits and bobs, it's really nice to be able to put it all on a board like this. The really useful things here are these pins. So these are right angled pins. So if you need to connect from a right angle across, you can use pins like this. Useful. Right angle pins mean you keep things shorter for you, so if you're building terrain and so on, it keeps things much lower. And then the straight up pins, which is what I tend to use on a lot of my stuff, are in this pack as well. Now, some of you may order one of these WeMos D1 boards from me. They're also available from Amazon, and they come out with a range of pin headers and so on. So you have these long ones, which are designed to go through the board and up the other side, so you can kind of stack them one after the other. They have regular female connectors like this, which you could kind of put facing up, and then you'll put a Harlech board or something on top with its pins pointing down and so on, right? So then what you'll have then is a stack up that looks something like this, right? And then, you know, the Harlich board is connected to these smaller pins. So you've got a lot of options here. You know, say for instance we wanted to use these female headers on this board, then one of the things we can do is in our little board here, we will put in the short end of the male headers in, just to hold it straight and so on, and then the female header on top. Plug that in like that. I'm going to work out how far across I need to go. Now the nice thing about these Wemos D1 boards is that they are designed to go at the same kind of, you know, in increments of 0.1 inch. You know? And we will put these pins on. Now I'm going to line them up. So there we go. Now I've made my stack. Clean off the soldering iron. Pull out some solder. Heat first. Lots of contact. And then solder. Breathing out as we do to blow away any solder. Now as you go, you will want to check for bridges. Bridges are when one pin, you know, you've got solder in between the pins and there's a connection between the pins. We do not want that, because that means that the electrical signal is shared, or, you know, between them. We don't want that at all. There we go. Now let's say you do have a bridge. Let's try and make one artificially. Just add lots of solder. Look at that. We've got one big bridge now. Put the plunger down. That's priming it. Now I'm going to apply heat to the solder and then press the button to suck it up. You ready? There we go. The solder's liquid and gone. Boom. We've now sucked up the solder, and now I'm just going to add a little bit more solder again, and we're done. Now I have a Wemos D1 controller for my Terrain-Tronics projects with female headers on board, and it's ready to rock, ready to go. Well, that wraps it up, folks, for another week. If this video was useful to you and you like the idea of adding a lot more interactivity to your terrain and so on, then please do the usual YouTube stuff, like, subscribe below, but also take a chance to have a look at terraintronics.com, or our Etsy store for customers in Europe, where we continue to sell LEDs, boards, drivers, kits, remote controls, and all the other stuff that really can upgrade the terrain that you're building. All right, until next time, thanks again.